Well, you're live. You're live on Coffee with Kim. You're here with me today, overlooking the city of Jerusalem. And I am so excited to be with you today because we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to talk about our voice. We're going to talk about a very interesting article that really kind of sets the stage for our conversation tonight. Hey, Lionel. And that is, let me kind of pull it up here. Where did it go? I'm waiting for you guys. So, hey, Bernice. All right, right here. Okay? Listen. This is what we're going to talk about today. I want you to see beautiful Jerusalem. The sun is going down. So, here's take a look at this. McCarthy to post. Omer Talib pulling party away from Israel. Listen to me. This article has to do with the voices that are in Washington that are anti-Semitic. They're anti-Zionist. They're anti-Israel. All right? And, hi, Sandra. And it's so important for us to understand that the covenant that God made with the Hebrew nation, the Jewish people, the house of Israel, all right, the nation of Israel, is a covenant of blessing and it's a covenant of cursing. And the promise that God said to Abraham, not only will he make him the father of many nations, but he also said, I will bless them that bless thee, I will curse them that curse thee, all right? And in thee shall all the nations be blessed. Now, what does that mean when from the very platform, from the hub of the United States, from the congressional seat, all right, we have voices that are speaking out and undermining our support for the nation of Israel? Well, our support for the nation of Israel is very much in part of why we're so blessed as a nation. It's very important for us to also understand we were the first nation to give the yes when the vote was being taken for Israel to become a state, right? A nation. For the rebirth of national Israel, for the rebirth of Jewish sovereignty in the earth. I mean, folks, the United States under President Harry Truman, it was the first yes, all right? And so you see that the subsequent blessings that were poured out after the Depression on the United States of America have been unprecedented in history, and no one can tell me it is not connected to the nation of Israel. Oh, I have so much to tell you on that, actually. Probably not in this video, but another time. So here, look at McCarthy. Let me just read a little bit to you on this. It says, the difference between the Democratic and Republican parties on Israel is that while only mainstream Democrats support the Jewish state, the whole Republican Party does, said House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, and he's a Republican, California. This is what he told the Post on Tuesday. And the problem with the Democrats, he asserted, is that members such as Congresswomen Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, are, with their statements and actions, pulling the party away from Israel. I think they are a wave of the Democratic Party, and actually they're a subset of the party, and that is the progressive movement that is within the Democratic Party. And that is absolutely a socialist movement, beyond a shadow of a doubt. And I'll be talking, and I have been talking a lot about it, but I'll be talking a lot more about it in the future. I'll tell you why, because I got to stretch. You're going to miss my face for a sec here. I just submitted a title for an up-and-coming paper, which it sounds kind of academic, as it is, all right, but I think you're going to find it to be so cool. Let me give you the title. Genesis, which means beginning, okay? The underlying forces behind the Second American political and social revolution. So there is so much that happened in the 60s and in the 70s, all right, that are playing or actually laid the groundwork for a lot of what's being experienced today in Washington, D.C. and around the country. And we're going to be talking a lot about that. However, let us not just push off the fact that we have very vocal voices in Washington right now that are undermining not only our relationship with Israel, they're spewing a lot of lies, a lot of propaganda. They actually have an echo chamber working behind them, which I've shared a tiny bit about. We're doing a lot of research into that right now. So when I say our voice, I think you're getting the picture of how we cannot stay silent in an hour like this. Being silent when there is injustice, or when there is falsification, or when there is a voice that is contrary to the very collective conscience of your nation, being silent is like committing collective and individual suicide. Not only that, it's an unrighteous act. God gave you a voice for a reason. Whether you pen it, whether you pray it, whether you speak it, it's a voice. All right? So our voice is right here on Coffee with Kim. This is one aspect of our voice. Our voice is in my book, Unraveling the Washington Web. Our voice is in the up-and-coming 3 books that we are going to be producing together. Our voice is in our up-and-coming program with the amazing interviews that are being scheduled, all right? Meet the Nations. This is our voice. This is the gathering of men, women, millennials from all over, not only the United States, not only Israel, but all over the world, that want to stand up and say, "Maspeak v'dai." Enough is enough, and we are going to take back that which belongs to us, that which is covenant, that which is righteous, that which is true. And we are not going to allow individuals to undermine the very truths that have granted us and given us the opportunities that we have today. You know, in America, we're one of the few nations, actually, we're one of only 2 nations. Not even a few, I don't think that's a few. One, Israel and America, that actually believe in the inalienable rights that have been given to every single human being. And because we believe those rights come from God, that He has given inalienable rights to every individual, every man, every woman, every child, all of His creation. And those inalienable rights are so valuable. They're worth fighting for. They're worth speaking about. So, how are we going to do it? Well, I'll tell you how we're going to do it. First of all, we'll come back to this article and other articles that are here, but tonight, Crystal Collette, who's part of our Coffee with Kim group, and several others, have really been asking me to talk about how we're going to get our voice out there. Well, what I've done is I have created what's called a Patreon page. Now, a Patreon page is a page where you can go on and you can become a monthly member or sponsor or partner, however we want to look at this, at whatever level you're comfortable with. I mean, starting with like $3, okay? Now, what you're doing, let me just show you what we've got, okay? Here's the first tier, okay? On the Patreon page, it tells my story. There's a video there, and it tells you exactly what you're supporting. And what you're supporting is what I am calling OurVoice. It is the program, the platform, the daily Coffee with Kims, for me to bring you not just babble, but quality material. I have to spend a few hours reading and thinking and really digesting and praying about the events that are unfolding in the earth. If I'm going to give you backdoor insight, all right, let me just share this with you real quick. I have had a couple of amazing guests here in Jerusalem with me over this past week. One was a very young millennial couple from Germany. She was from Bulgaria originally, he was from Germany. And the second is a beautiful teacher from New York City. Okay, so the couple's not Jewish. The teacher from New York is Jewish. So we've got a real interesting group talking, right? We talked about Israel, about global politics, about God, about the Torah, about the scriptures, about U.S.-Israel relations, not only like a couple hours every day, but yesterday we talked from 9:30 in the morning until 12:30. Well, I don't know how much we dialogued, but I taught on these issues. Now, let me just say that's an investment, because that young man who was very, very kind of anti-Trump, and he had all these questions, and he said, you know, we really believe in Germany. Trump just lies all the time. And I said, well, let's talk about that. How does he lie? And then he said, but what about all these boundaries and the immigration? Well, that's a very big millennial point. And he, you know, in Israel, in Germany, and in Europe, we don't have boundaries. And Trump wants to put all these boundaries there. And I'm like, yeah, that's true, but let's take a look at this and this. So, and then I said, but let's take a look at not having boundaries in Europe. How has that helped you? And how has that kept your identity as a nation and as an individual? And he said this. He said, you know what? I just went over into Italy. And the store, he happens to have his own business. And he happens to, do business in all of the EU countries. And he said, I went to the store, and he said, and I went to another store, and I went to another store. And he said, I was so disappointed because all the stores look alike. And he said, and yet I was in another country, like Italy. I wasn't in Germany, but they all looked alike. And I said, yeah. And he said, where's my identity? I'm not kidding. He said it. And I'm like, that's the question. Where is your identity? If you take away all your borders, where's your nationalism? Where's your pride? Where is the identity of who you are? And he looked and he said, I loved this conversation. He said, I have never thought about these things before. And he said, you have left me with so much to think about, even in a positive way towards the President of the United States. And I was just like, this is what OurVoice is all about. This is what we're about, folks. It's about changing public opinion when they're hearing so much propaganda, so many lies. And it's about literally investing into the nations so they can experience, all right, or all of us can experience the truths about the inalienable rights and the freedoms that have been God given to us. And so getting involved is like so simple in supporting what we're doing on Coffee with Kim, and the books, the articles, and the Meet the Nations, and we're already working on the interviews. I even talked to someone today about setting up an interview time. He wrote a book that is got to be one of the best books I've ever read in my life. I never cried so hard in my life over any one book that I did this book, because of the insights into the Bible and into the story of Moshe and the end of days before he went up onto the top of the mountain. The children of Israel went into the land. Oh my gosh, be still my heart. It was amazing. So, all right. So we've got the Waymaker. So for $3 a month, you'll be able to, in the video below tonight, you'll be able to click on it. But for $3 a month, you can get involved. You're going to get recognition on our homepage, and you are going to get excerpts of what we're creating. And of course, you're going to get access to the Q&A, where, in other words, you're going to be able to say, hey, I've got this question. And then we can look at the question and say, hey, we're going to talk about that question live, all right? Okay, so the next tier, that's when we start getting into what's called in Israel the Chai, all right? So I did everything according to the Chai. Chai means life, l'chaim, life, and it's the number 18. And 18 seems to be, it's my favorite number. I was born on the 18th of November, all right? I love the number 18. The address of our Jerusalem hub here is Hanasi Hashishi, which means the sixth president, number 18, okay? We signed the lease on the 18th day, all right, of August, all right, coming up, okay? So many exciting things with that. Now, so half of a chai is 9. So we have a tier in the Patreon page that you can support us every month for $9, and it's called Way Up, all right? Now, the Way Up tier, okay, you get all the benefits of tier 1, so it kind of builds benefit to benefit, all right? You get a digital copy of my book, Unraveling the Washington Web, and you get the monthly sneak peeks, okay? So you're gonna get to know the projects that we're planning every month, all right? You'll get a sneak peek into them. I just gave you one little sneak peek, okay? And that is for being a sponsor and supporting us as a patron every month for $9, okay? Now, the next tier is the l'chaim tier, okay? That's $18 a month, and it's l'chaim, okay? It's to life. Now, you get all the tier benefits, okay? Again, they just build, all right? You get a printed copy of Unraveling the Washington Web, and just so you know, if you already have a copy of my book, you've already read it, all right, take this copy, give it to someone else, and get them involved, all right? By the way, I'll be putting out a link on Coffee with Kim. I'm waiting for it right now. I am going to be going live tomorrow on a radio program that is located near Washington, D.C., about my book. It's a syndicated radio program, and it's going to be live tomorrow. I'm going to be interviewed on my book, and you will be receiving the link for that. So very, very exciting stuff. This is Our Voice, folks. Our Voice. All right, because we're lifers. All right, we're thinking the same things, we're talking the same things, we're learning the same things, we're doing it together. I just happen to be a little bit more out there, but we're doing it together. All right, now. Plus, you're going to get a bonus. Digital content includes previews of the newest materials, so you'll be able to get that. All right, now, the next tier is the double chai 36, all right? So if you support us for $36 a month, all right, you get all the tier bonuses, okay? You're going to get the printed copy of the book, and then you're going to get early access to all the published articles and books. So before they actually go out to the public, you're going to get them, and you're going to get like copies along the way, like things I'm doing. I might send you a page, like I saw that the Mallorys were on, all right? I might send a page over for the Mallory. I might send it over there, okay, and say, hey, what do you think about this, okay? Because again, it's our voice that's going out. So this is how, okay, we're going to take a look at this. Now, the next thing we have here is also behind the scenes sneak previews for our up and coming broadcasts on Meet the Nation. Now, we're going to have meetings on that next week. I'll keep you informed. Now, that's our $36 a month tier. Now, we jump to a triple high. Now, there's a lot written about the triple high. That's the triple blessing. You know that anytime you sow into Israel, as I just mentioned, even the United States sowing into Israel, there are promises that are replete within the Torah, replete within Scripture, over the blessings that come back to us in so many different ways. Well, the triple chi is the triple 18. It's $54 a month. And when you support for $54 a month, all right, you get a tree planted in your name. You're going to get an actual certificate from the Jewish National Fund, and you're going to be taken right here, by the way. But don't leave. Just don't leave. Give me just 3-4 more minutes, because I got a surprise for everybody. All right? Okay. You'll get new material reviews, and then you're going to get the replay of the live interviews, all right, that we're going to be doing, and the behind-the-scene interviews are coming up, and all the other tier benefits. And then we've got the tenfold blessing. That's $54, and then the tenfold blessing, long life, folks. That is $108. Anyone who wants to invest $108 into this project here in Israel. This is 10 18s. All right. It's the tenfold blessing. Anyways, of course, we have the tree, but we also have all the other tier blessings, the new material reviews, private invitation to our interviews, so you'll be able to come on and be part of the audience for those interviews, the replay of the live interviews, and we have a new program that has been launched. It's being released actually tonight. It's called You Can Partner Inspire Israel Partnerships, for people that actually want to come to Israel and stay. So if you're part of the Long Life program, the 10 High program, your $108 is dollar for dollar. It goes to what we call pillow points, and those pillow points earn you free accommodations. So for every $125 that you give, you're going to actually get a free night here in Israel. So that is a real bonus for being at the triple high. Actually, you support a triple high. Well, it's supposed to be the 10 high. All right, and then that's it. That's the highest tier. You can give whatever you want. There will be a link if you want to just do a one-time donation. Also, your points count. So if you want to do a one-time donation. So this is the Patreon page that's going up. These are how the points are allocated. And once again, what you're investing in is the material, the time, the research, the video editors for the videos that are coming out. All right, the guests, the interviews, the travel expenses. You are investing in our voice and making sure that we have the funds, the resources that we need to get our voice out into the world, all right? Not just Coffee with Kim, not just Meet the Nations. We would like to ultimately see this go into a lot of TV stations and syndicated stations and radio stations and podcasts and all of that. But to make that happen, we have to do it together. I have been trying to do it on my own for so long, and I'm telling you, of late, I have been so uncomfortable about it inside of my heart. I'm like, if I don't share this and we don't do it together, then where's the value in that? So the value is the collective. It's not just the individual. And so I hope that you will take a look today at that Patreon page. Become a partner with me for what we're doing here in Israel. And let's just really make not only Coffee with Kim, if you notice, we have added on almost, I think 50 new members in the last couple days. So we are getting ready to explode this and take it to a whole new level. And I cannot thank you enough. Every time I go live and I see you and your faces, it means the world to me. And it's all because of you that we even have this opportunity to be in Jerusalem and expand this great opportunity to have our voice out in the world in a critical time in U.S. Israel's history. So, on that note, are you guys enjoying the sunset? All right, let me see who's with us. I always gotta squint my eyes, get close to the camera. All right, Rosie, it's so good to see you, Rosie. Let me just start at the bottom. Martha Kraft, it is so good to see you. All right, Sandra, it's so good to see you. Venice, good to see you. All right, Barbara, it's so good to see you tonight. Michael, all right. Oh, thanks. My hair's pretty long, so I don't usually wear it down, but thank you. Okay, Julie, it's so good to see you. Benjamin, I want in. All right. Those conversations are what I'd like to be in. Yes. All right, Benjamin. All right, I'll have the link up when we get off this. And all of you that have also subscribed to my Networking the Why, you'll be getting an email on this. And so make sure you get in and get in now. All right. Oh, that was the surprise. Oh, I almost forgot. Everybody who gets in now, okay, is going to have a tree. No matter what tier you come in on, you are going to get a tree planted here in Jerusalem, and you will receive the certificate from the Jewish National Fund. So every single one of you, that means you're rooted here with me in Israel. And when you come to visit, by the way, you can actually go to the forest where they put your tree. So it's pretty cool. All right, so I want you in, and hopefully you will be in. Juan, it's so good to see you. Kevin, it's great to see you. Christine, so good to see you. All right, Afton and Gordon, it's so good to see you. All right, let's see. Jody, great to see you. Shelly, I love you too, girl. Shelly from Chicago. I learned something today, Shelly. Real interesting. I actually called a friend of mine because as I said, I had to submit a title today, and I'm still waiting on approval, but I had to submit a title today for an up-and-coming paper. And I called a friend of mine. He's 90 years old, but he's been a journalist all his life. He's amazing. And I said, hey, I got to submit a title. This is the title I have, and what do you think? And he says, you know what, I think we're going to tweak that title a little bit. But he said, let me tell you something. He started rattling off historical events in the 60s and in the 70s. I was like, I didn't even know they happened. I was a kid. I mean, in 1968, I was like 8 years old. So, I mean, I didn't know there was this massive Democratic convention that caused all these riots and everything in Chicago in 1968. I knew nothing about it. He's telling me about it, and he said, let me tell you something. He said, The Second American Revolution began there in Chicago, 1968. And I thought, wow, this is going to get to be very, very interesting, this research that I'm going to be doing on the topic of the underlying forces behind the Second American Political and Social Revolution and its, big words here, folks, all right, emanations, okay? And then the question is, you know, how it gave rise to the aberrations that we've seen, like President Obama. He's an aberration of the American ethos, the American point of view, the American collective conscience. Rashid Tlaib is an aberration. Ilhan Omar, AOC, George Soros. These are individuals that are not a part of the collective conscience of the American point of view, the American nefesh, the American soul, all right? But what we're looking at here is how the 60s and the 70s literally paved the way for what we're seeing today. Interesting, huh? So that's a paper that I'm working on researching, which ultimately will be a book. So anyways, I had no idea, Shelley, that started, or at least it was the catalyst of it, was in Chicago in 1968. All right, so hey, Kara, so good to see you. Amanda, great to see you. Wayne, great to see you. Anne, so good to see you. I tried to call you. All right, Jessica, good to see you. Christine Ellis, so good to see you. Daniel, we love you. I love you, Daniel, too. All right. And Daniel, by the way, I had a couple stay here a couple weeks ago, and I have already told them about you. And so she was from Colombia, and they live in Delray, and always are in the Boca Raton area. So anyways, we're going to be connecting them with you, all right? Okay, so Diaz, all right, Mike, good to see you. All right, Terry, it's so good to see you. All right, Benjamin and Sandra. All right, Bernice. Hey, Bernice. And Lionel, always so awesome to see you. All right, guys. And Carrie. Oh, Carrie. Carrie is an amazing artist, by the way, folks. Nicole, so good to see you. And Linda. Hey, Linda. Thank you so much. Linda was our first patron, folks. What we're talking about tonight, Linda is in already, and so we are so thankful for that tonight. So come on, everybody. We'll get going on that. Linda Ewald and Jeff, it's so good to see you. So for those of you that just came in late, Martha, we were sharing about how we're going to get our voice collectively out there in books, in articles, and in our up-and-coming programs, interviews, and Meet the Nation. So your support is welcome. There is a link. It will be below this video. So it's easier if I put it on after the video, or not in the video link, because you can't really click on that. So anyways, it'll be up after I post. Okay. All right. So the sun is going down here in Jerusalem. I hope you're enjoying the view. I have to tell you, I am enjoying. Are you guys liking this location? All right. This is the balcony. All right. So we are out on the balcony. All right. And so let me just, while we have a few more minutes, Layla, hey, sweetie. All right, Lila, so good to hear from you tonight. All right. While we are out here on the, on the balcony with today's newspaper, let's just do a quick rundown on some of the events. Very interesting article I read this morning on the Foreign Policy Organization. We've been talking a lot about China, right? So one of the articles I read this morning was about the how China has taken over really and invested so heavily in the African market, especially in the media department. I think we had talked about that about internet and phones coming to the Africans a couple weeks ago. But they, at the end of the article, they made a very interesting point, and they said, America really has to get in, and in quickly, because the country that's given the edge in developing third world countries or countries that don't have the same type of infrastructure, the country that is there on the ground investing and building, that is the country that gets to shape the ideas. It gets to shape the thought process of the citizens. And so don't forget, at this point, until China collapses, because of all that prayer going on there, China is a communist country. And so communism will shape the point of view, the ethos of Africa, if it's allowed to have this kind of edge and advantage versus the republic point of view and that of God and inalienable rights, which is the American ethos. With that said, we have to understand that communism is not just an isolated ideology. Communism dovetails into Islamism. It dovetails into progressivism. All right, all of these ideologies dovetail into each other and have a tendency to oppose democracies or social democracies and that which, of course, has any kind of representation in a moral society with God as the as God over that society. I can say a lot about that, but in God we trust. All right, so that is that. Somebody just asked, let's see what I say here. Are you facing west? Is the sun set shining on you? No, actually, I am not facing west. West is on the other side of the house. Now, the other night when we were sitting in the dark and all the lights were on, that was to the west. That was the Judean hills. So when you come and stay here, you actually get a view to the east. All right, this is the east. So the sun rises on this side, and your bedrooms all face the west. So you get to see the sunset to the west, and you get to come out and have coffee and watch the sunrise to the east. So it's pretty beautiful. All right, Candace, I was wondering the same thought. All right, well, great. I'm glad you asked the question, Benjamin. Questions are what make the world go round. All right, okay. So speaking of China, all right, clashes erupt at Hong Kong airport amid uproar. This is a tragedy. I'm going to put up, I just love the guy that does the YouTube videos, and we are going to YouTube, by the way, folks, so you'll be able to find me on YouTube as well as on Facebook in our assessment of U.S.-Israel relations. But it's the red shark. I don't know why he calls it that, but he's so good. And he gives a great assessment, and I'll be putting his video that he just put out on this tragic situation that is happening between China and Hong Kong. So let me just read a couple of situations here. Trump cites intel. I said it yesterday. Okay, China moving troops to border. Police and protesters clashed at Hong Kong International Airport on Tuesday evening after flights were disrupted for a second day and the political crisis in the former British colony deepened. Yeah, I bet they wish Britain was still there, hey? All right. So it goes on to say, All right, in a second day of unrest, it's getting a little dark. Yeah, we do have some light. I can turn around a little bit here. See, I'll turn you guys a little bit towards the light. I don't think that worked, did it? No, light's way up there. All right. Okay, it says, at the airport, thousands of black-clad protesters jammed the terminal, chanting, singing, and waving banners. All right. It says here, scuffles broke out after an injured person was taken out of the main terminal by medics after he was held by hurt, I guess, by a group of protesters. Some activists claimed he was an undercover mainland Chinese police officer. Ooh, boy, Hong Kong really doesn't want China there. Ooh, folks, that is so. So, anyways, please remember everybody to pray for the Hong Kong people. This is a very, they're struggling for freedom. This is their fight for freedom. And China's moving troops. I mean, this is a real battle. America, we had to fight for freedom. And freedom is worth fighting for. So, here we go. All right. Now, here's one of the funniest, okay, headlines ever. Check it out. All right, I'm going to show it to you. All right, there it is, guys. Okay, can you see it? All right, here we go. In the light. I don't think you can see it. Let's see if I can get it up there. Ah, there it is. Okay, you can see it. All right, it says, UN asks Palestinians to explain hate speech. Oh, like, okay, what? I mean, like, this has been going on as long as I've been alive. I mean, and actually, I talked to an expert earlier today, and he said, you ain't seen nothing. It's been gone for 14 centuries. And he says, and now the UN wants to know? It's like, well, believe it or not, the UN is getting complaints. Several NGO reports pointed out anti-Semitic and anti-Israel prejudice and incitement to hatred, especially in the Palestinian media and speeches of state officials. Kind of blows Rashidi Tlaib's little blurb yesterday that Palestinians never say anything bad about Israel, right? That's what she said. All right, so, okay. So they go on to say here, okay, can the state party, the PA, provide any explanation in this? Come on, folks. Oh, come on. It's like, what is going on with the UN? Oh, my goodness. This is so funny. Okay, so let me read a little bit more. It's just too funny to let it go. Ask the committee members of Chinsung-cheon of South Korea. Whoa, South Korea. Ooh, go South Korea. Coming to the rescue at the UN here. All right, here we go. It says she is the special rapporteur. I think it's supposed to be reporter, folks, but for the Palestinian Authority's review by the committee. Its members paused to note the historic quality of the moment before tackling the more complex issues at hand. All right. Committee member Silva Albuquerque said he had been briefed by NGOs earlier in the day on examples of racism and anti-Semitism in the PA, particularly in its school books. Woohoo! Wow. It's come all the way. Now, you know what? The UN's been looking at these school books for years. But now, folks, something's going on. It's because there's a man in the office of the United States of America, and there was a woman in that same office that was appointed to the UN, and we have ambassadors that are sitting in the UN saying it's wrong, it's unjust, it's inequitable for you to put the blame on Israel when the incitement and the hatred is being bred within the Palestinian people. So it's wrong. And so Nikki Haley is who I'm talking about, by the way. All right, a woman that stood up against the rhetoric and the injustice of the United Nations. So it goes on to say, our convention obliges state parties to adopt immediate and effective measures, particularly in education, to combat racial discrimination and prejudice between different racial and ethnic groups over jurisprudence. All right, Albuquerque asked the PA, all right, delegation in the room for specific examples of how it has tackled this problem. PA Foreign Minister Representative Amar Hijaz, who led a delegation of over a dozen officials, spoke briefly at the end of the hearing. The meeting will continue on Wednesday to explore issues of discrimination in areas A and B of the so-called West Bank and Gaza. All right, you go, South Korea, bringing this to the attention. She's probably a little South Korean Nikki Haley. All right, everybody. All right, Benjamin. All right, and who I see, okay, Belva Hall, it's so good to see you from Chicago. All right, Suzette, so good to see you. Candace, so good to see you. All right, we can see you. Oh, good. Okay, very neat. Well, we are outside. Hilda, good to see you. All right, okay. All right. Interesting. By the way, DNA study reveals 130,000 Hungarians, look at it, all right, are at least 50% Jewish. Pretty cool. That's what I say. All right, I was going to tell you, in light of that Palestinian deal, the other interesting thing, now we talked about this yesterday because we have no proof of this yet. But again, it's in the paper again today, and that is Hamas deploys security forces to stop Gazans from approaching the Israeli border. So something is afoot. Now, I will say something else, though. I'm going to have to talk about the elections coming up in September, but it's not something I really want to talk about live. It's just very, very complicated. But there was a very, very interesting article that my friend Gil Hoffman wrote, put in the paper. He's going to be he's already agreed in the past for an interview, so we're going to be getting him live. He is one of the most objective news reporters, long time with the Jerusalem Post. He's the chief political correspondent of the Post. He wrote an article, the Prime Minister tells Likud lawmakers, compare Ayelet Shaked to Zippy Livni. Now, for those of you that have been following this, Ayelet Shaked is the up-and-coming female leader in Israeli politics. She's brilliant. She's a lawyer. She was really the judicial minister, and now she is the head of the new Yamina party. It's called Yamina, the right. And Likud had the opportunity to take Shaked on, which hopefully they ultimately will. Now, unlike Zippy Livni, who was far to the left, not at all to the right. Now, Ayelet Shaked may be in many, many ways, she's not religious, she's more secular, but in Israel, secular is not like in America, not at all. You don't have like a right-left in Israel in the same way. Most of the time when you say to the left, you're talking about somebody's position on where they stand with Palestinian-Israeli relations. All right, are they, do they want to see more concessions? Do they want to have, do more to help the Palestinians, or do they trend less. So, or not less to help them, but to concede or to appease, all right? Which is what would be considered the right. Then you also have the religious, all right? But everybody in Israel, everybody, left, right, secular, everybody has a natural understanding of God. God is very central to the majority of everyone. It's not like in America where if you're secular, you usually don't believe in God or you don't have any participation in anything that takes place. I always joke that if you go to a secular event here in Israel, half of it's always talking about the Torah portion. I mean, you would never hear that in America. I mean, you would never hear the Bible being the discussion of the hour if you're not a believer of some denomination or congregation. All right. So very, very interesting, very different viewpoint that you wouldn't know unless you're watching Caught with Kim, right? All right. So this is a very interesting article. My first look at this headline, and I haven't called Gil on this, and I'm going to be, because I think this is a grave mistake on the part of the Prime Minister to call her out like that. Because very honestly, this woman is being groomed to be a Prime Minister. So we can say what we want to say. I never felt that about Tzipi Livni. In fact, Tzipi Livni was very, very involved in undermining a lot of things that in U.S.-Israel relations and that Israel was doing, even concerning the Israel nuclear deal. All right, she came on the backside. Benjamin Netanyahu came to America. He spoke before Congress regarding the red line of the Iranian nuclear proliferation, and she came on the backside of that to undermine all of it. So Tzipi Livni and Ayelet Shachet are not even in the same camp, and so I am. I have to get a little bit more detail on this, so I can't judge this article yet. But my initial response to this article, and I know Gil. I mean, I know him really well. I mean, this is I've known him for 20 plus years. He's a very long time friend of mine. And so he just doesn't haphazardly make a heading of an article or write anything that tries to create a bias. So this is not, in my estimation, something that the Prime Minister should say, if indeed he has said it, which, since Gil's right next to the Prime Minister, he probably knows who says what. So anyways, so then you've got Abbas, all right, saying, I hope Netanyahu will be defeated in the election. So once again, very, very interesting. The forces that are now at work to try and remove Netanyahu, and unfortunately, he may win this election, but he does not have the same favor as he has had for the last 10 years, and so his tenure as Prime Minister may be ending, in the next year or two. We've talked about that too. All right, Rufius, good to see you. Evangelist Gabriel Reynolds, good to see you. James Deficits, I haven't seen you for a while, James. Good to see you. Crystal, it's good to see you. Major Briggs, good to see you. All right, okay, Benjamin. All right, Candace, everyone sees by the light, not sunshine. She explains it. Oh, okay, good. I don't think I'm privy to that conversation. John, so good to see you. All right. Then one of my favorite sections of the Jerusalem Post is the comments and features. I really love a lot of the op-eds that are here, a lot of the articles, and a very interesting article. Look at this. And this is the truth. I mean, this is a pretty accurate statement. Israel between the Chinese dragon and the American elephants. Israel is really between a rock and a hard place when it comes to the fact that the Chinese have not only made a contract to run a portion of the Haifa port for, I think, the next 10 or 20 years. In addition to that, which again gives them access to a lot of national security information. And then as well, of course, they're buying into a lot of the high-tech companies, including cyber and a lot of the very forward-thinking innovations. And once again, knowing their track record in hacking and spying and cyber spying and stealing information. I mean, they have a pretty strong track record. I'm not making this up. Knowing that, America's concerned because we have invested a tremendous amount in national security here in Israel, and Israel has invested a lot with us. And now we have a third party that it has the tendency to be truly amazing on the outside, but the government can be a little unsavory, to say the least. So this article, I'll put it up on Coffee with Kim, or maybe if Linda's on, you can find it, Israel between the Chinese dragon and the American elephant. I'll read a couple lines to you on that, because now that it's getting darker, I can actually see. I don't know if you can see me, but it's pretty dark. I should have some more lights, huh? I do have more lights, by the way. I should have put them all on, but I didn't realize. Okay, it says it is probably the most difficult period for the Chinese leadership. The demonstrations in Hong Kong are clearly determined to face Beijing's warnings and threats. The Chinese option of quelling the protests by brute force does not appeal to Beijing, and rightly so. Its stake is so much more than Hong Kong wishes to develop and convey to the whole Asian continent and beyond, and the influence it wants to gain as one of the instruments to achieve global parity with other superpower, the United States. All right. So, this is a long article. I'll just post it. It's interesting. Let me just jump over to this one paragraph here. Okay. I was just talking about the Haifa port. Okay. So here we go. In recent months, however, Israel found itself caught in the crossfire between China and the U.S. initially. It was reported that Washington was concerned as a Chinese firm was commissioned to operate the new part of the Haifa port. The alleged U.S. concerns arose 3 years after the concession to the Chinese firm was granted and subsided once it... to fix this, folks, because it's got the line there. Though once it... okay, there it is. Became clear that the part of the Haifa port frequented by the U.S. Sixth Fleet is separated and not seen from the area where Chinese personnel will be working. Okay. Nevertheless, all right, the Haifa port commotion has eventually unveiled the real and deeper U.S. concern, which has to do with cyber communications, SG, or 5G, and artificial intelligence. The furious war between China and the U.S. on these two fronts already dwarf the trade conflict. All right, so that's what the article is about. A very excellent, excellent article. And that, once again, that is interesting. The 5G is interesting, and AI is interesting. And, if I was to say, Linda, hold on. Hi, Arlene. Lighting on you is actually very pleasant as long as you can see well. We're great. Okay, great. I look pretty dark on your side, but okay, fantastic. All right. So what's interesting with this is the same issue that I was talking about earlier regarding Africa, and the fact that China has a very, very aggressive plan to really cover as much of Africa as it can with its technology. Okay, smartphones, smart televisions, Huawei, the company Huawei, which is not in America, etc. And the author of the article I read this morning said, if the U.S. wants to gain an edge in shaping the ethos, the point of view, or the nationalism of the country, then it needs to get in. And we've got the same thing going on here. This is the tragedy. I hate to point back to the last 8 years before President Trump, but the tragedy of a lot of the infighting in America and the issues that are going on, the tragedy is that we're losing our edge in the global market, especially in a technological edge. We have, we've scaled back a little bit too much, and we really need to reinvigorate. I said it before. We just need to plug all these millennials into the thing they do best, and reinvigorate the economy with young, fresh ideas on how we can help these countries. And that's something that both China and Israel are very, very, in the forefront of doing. Where Israel is really bringing technology to the world, and they are working on certain parts of technology in America. But I think that, our technology days are not over. They don't have to be over. We need to step it up. We need to get in the game. All right. Now, another interesting article here, legality versus morality. And okay. All right, I'm just looking over that article real quick to see if I want to point anything out about foreign. It has to do with the foreign workers here in Israel. And the article itself brings out some very, very interesting statistics. Okay, so let me read you some of the statistics here. It says, according to the Interior Minister, there are more than 100,000 legal foreign workers and close to 17,000 illegal foreign workers currently in Israel. There are also more than 66,000 foreign nationalists in the country whose tourist visas have expired. Oh my goodness. The overwhelming majority of whom, nearly 70%, are from the former Soviet Union, all right, and whom the Interior Ministry believes are working here illegally. All right, among them, approximately 83,000 foreigners illegally in Israel. It is clear that most cases, about 63,000, involve foreign workers, and every effort should be made to find them, detain them, and deport them. Oh, that's a that's a no-brainer. Amazing. I think that we're trying to do that in America too. Wow, how interesting. And that again really deals with the lesson from this affair might be that even when the law is on the state side, sometimes it's not enough to be right. It's also important to be compassionate. So that takes us back to the beginning of the article. And it is true. So let me just read you the story behind the story. All right? All right. There was on Tuesday in the Jerusalem Post, there was an analysis of a situation that took place regarding a foreign worker. So here we are. There is no real obvious legal obstacle to deporting Filipino workers whose visas have expired. Israel law does not include that the concept of unlimited jus soli, the right of soil where one is born, which is the legal right of persons born in a place to enjoy citizenship there. That's how we arrived at the situation this week where Rosemary Perez, a Filipino woman who has worked in Israel for years, and her 13-year-old Israeli-born son Rohan were forcibly deported from the country. They were sent away late Monday night, a day after a similar attempt was stifled at the last moment, when the mother created a commotion while being escorted on the plane and had to be removed. The two were held at a detaining facility at Ben Gurion Airport until they were put on a Monday evening flight to Bangkok on the way back to Manila. Perez and her son were not allowed to gather their belongings, take any memoirs, or say goodbye to their friends. Rohan, a student at the Biluek Rogozon School in Tel Aviv, had been due to enter 8th grade. He and his mother were detained last week, part of a campaign initiated by the Interior Minister's Population and Immigration Authority to track down and deport dozens of Filipino workers who had children in Israel but never renewed their visa. So she's illegal. However, the morality problem stems, as you can already see, in the fact that this woman, all right, did appeal to the immigration ministry in 2016. And she did so again in 2018. So the fact that she had appealed and she didn't win, she was still illegal, all right, that fact, all right, they should have taken into consideration and been far more compassionate in giving her, let's say, 10 days, all right, to wrap everything up, make arrangements, get their belongings together, and so on and so forth, before they deported her. So that's the whole deal, legal or morality. And you know, I'm always reminded of the passage that we find, and we find it in not only in the Torah, we find it, you know, Moshe talks about it, we also find it in the Nevi'im and the prophets, we find it in Yeshayahu, we find it in Yeskil, we find it in Jeremiah, we find it in the Tehillim, we find it in the life of David, where God consistently points out that mercy always trumps justice and judgment. You know, when you're going to judge something, when you're going to implement justice, always err on the side of mercy. And I would say that even to what's going on in our own borders in the United States. Remember, these are people. And for whatever, whether they're political pawns of another party or another organization, they're still human. And if we're, you know, we have to enforce the law, but we have to enforce the law with mercy. And we always need to remember that. And so when we look at legality and we look at morality, I would say only one thing. Make sure that what's binding morality and legality together is mercy. That's my take on that, folks. My take on all of that tonight. And there we have it. It is the rest of the story. We're enjoying ourselves so much. We have been out here, I think, at least an hour. All right, so let's wrap it up. All right, great to catch you live. Need to pray strategically, especially for leaders of all these nations. All right. I can never get you the whole thing, so I'll read it later, Beth, and come back to you. Article. Thank you, Linda. All right, Diana, good to see you. How's it going in Missouri? All right. Okay. So everybody, okay, George, good to see you. All right, everybody. John, great to see you. Ruffy, we're back. Okay. So it has been just wonderful being with all of you tonight here in Jerusalem. Hope you enjoyed our location tonight. And I have got to run. I'll make sure we post that. Make sure you check out the tiers and our new project here in Israel. And again, any of you want to be coming to Israel, make sure you contact me as well, so we can make sure that when you get involved with the tiers, that you get pillow points. All right, everybody. Okay, we love you. I thank you so much. And remember, when we go, this is our voice. And I think maybe we're going to call it that. Maybe we should. I should write that down. Okay? Our voice. Our voice. All right, guys. I love you so much, and we'll talk to you soon. All the best. Bye-bye.